Happy New Year! Happy 2025! I still got my Christmas tree up, so I hope you don't mind. We're still pretty festive looking around here. As you may know, I don't watch a lot of new releases when they come out. So I wasn't keeping up with everything that was coming out in 2024, like a lot of channels were. I watch a lot of reviews, I listen to the conversation, but I'm not usually watching the movies. But I did realize that I can make a couple of yearly wrap-up videos because, come to find out, I watched 15 new 2024 releases. So we're going to be talking about them today, ranking them from worst to best. Some of these films I may ramble on about, other films I may not talk about at length. A lot of this is coming from my Letterboxd reviews, so you may hear some repetition if you happen to read those. But yeah, otherwise let's just cuddle up, get cozy, get comfortable, and walk through what I actually watched in 2024. Starting off with the worst, at number 15, we have Milk and Cereal. Why do y'all like that? Why do y'all like this? People have been hyping this film up. It's been mentioned so many times, recommended so many times. It seemed really easy, you know? It's an hour long, it's on YouTube. I had no choice but to watch it. And it's found footage, so I was like, it'll probably be great. So in case you don't know, this is a found footage film in the form of kind of a YouTube video. It's following some prankster friends who take things a little too far. So this was not for me. I didn't like how it looked. I didn't like how it felt. I just didn't like what it was about. It didn't feel like a horror movie to me. It felt more like thank you. It felt more like a crime movie. I didn't like any of these characters. I don't know, just like the atmosphere, the vibe wasn't there. And I don't usually get like bogged up in the logistics of a found footage film, but like this was edited. And it's like over edited YouTube video style, you know what I mean? It was very chaotic. It wasn't like suspenseful or surprising or anything to me. It wasn't for me. I can see why it might appeal to maybe the younger generation, people who haven't watched a lot of movies but have watched a lot of TikTok. This might be good for their brains. At number 14, we have The Deliverance. This film doesn't really get talked about. I think people did maybe watch it and then just never mentioned it. This film is about Ebony, a single mother of 3. She moves into a new home and soon suspects that evil lives there with them. This was based on a true story, and it's really supposedly true story, and it's really quite a shame because I think with that story, this film could have become the next Conjuring, the next Exorcist, the next Amityville, something like that. You know, it's like that type of story. However, this film was quite a mess. It was very overstuffed, and for a long time it felt like a family drama and not a horror movie. It's just really weird. It's hard to talk about, you know? It's like it was trying way too hard to differentiate itself from other horror films, but in doing so it kind of lost the horror. It was very long, very weird, and just not compelling. Glenn Close is in this movie though, for some reason, but she looks very beautiful. I like that style on her. Anyway, the movie sucked. At number 13, we have Cuckoo. The film of nothing. This film made me so mad. I don't even know how to talk about it. It's about this girl who moves with her family to Germany or something. I don't even remember. My brain is blocking it out. And there's like weird stuff going on. And come to the end, the weird stuff doesn't even really get explained. Wow, great time. It's stylish, it's beautiful, and I'm sure that is the appeal. But this film is confusing, unsatisfying, underwhelming, not really scary. I described this not so much as a horror, but more of a conspiracy thriller with sci-fi undertones. I found the characters to be meaningless. The story was absurd in this unrelatable way where it's not set in our reality. And that does get frustrating for me in some films. Yeah, I did not have a good time with that one. At number 12, this film actually was released in 2023, but it came onto Shudder in 2024, so I'm counting it anyway, and that is Baghead. Baghead is about a girl. I wrote this. It's about a girl who looks barely 18 who inherits a pub from her estranged father. Not only does the place seem to have no electricity, it has an immortal witch living in the basement who can contact the dead. This was a lot like Talk to Me. It was riddled with cliches and dumbed down storytelling, and it was generally a bore. It was dreary, lackluster, and kind of juvenile. The actors, they were good, okay, but this was giving theater. Like, they were very theatrical. And today, when I was thinking about it again, I was reminded, it reminded me of Wishbone. Did anybody watch Wishbone? It just felt like a Wishbone episode or something. I don't know, it wasn't cool. It wasn't good. It was generic, and that's the problem with a lot of these sort of like independent or direct to streaming modern horror films, is they just have a very generic feel because they don't want to go too far in any direction so that a wider audience will want to watch or will like keep watching and not X out of it. I don't know.
But it's all the same idea that if you ruffle the least amount of feathers, you can gain the approval of the largest audience and win the algorithm lottery.
Okay, at number 11 is Immaculate. I did a full review on this movie because I was excited and was like, look at me, I'm going to talk about something like relevant and current. But as you can see, I didn't stay on that train for long. This is the synopsis from Letterboxd, though I'm sure a lot of you already know. An American nun embarks on a new journey when she joins a remote convent in the Italian countryside. However, her warm welcome quickly turns into a living nightmare when she discovers her new home harbors a sinister secret and unspeakable horrors. This film is very much like The First Omen, but if we are comparing the two, The First Omen wins by far. I gave this film a pretty generous rating, I think of 3.5 out of 5. But the more I think about it, the more sort of distance I feel from the film. I think I said in my initial review, though, like I didn't intend on revisiting it, but it just didn't go the direction I wanted it to go story-wise. I think it had some cool, like, powerful moments and everything, a little bit of nunsploitation there. But the film just, it has some like really tropey, I keep saying that, like cliche horror elements just to make it feel or look more like a traditional horror movie, but that's not what this is, you know? The film is beautiful and it has a Giallo song in it, featured in it, which is really cool. And the acting's good and everything, but ultimately, like, now that I'm thinking back on it, perhaps the messaging is a bit on the nose. However, some people didn't even interpret the messaging as such, so maybe not. But it was just like a little too elevated. I would just like some nunsploitation that's doesn't take itself so seriously. Like I would just like to have a little bit fun. I don't know. At number 10, we have this Tubi original called Invasive. Invasive is about a girl named Kay who decides to frog, aka squat, inside a billionaire farmer bro's house. However, things don't go as planned when he unexpectedly returns home. I saw a recommendation that this film is really good. Also, many of the reviews you will read say that this film is really good. But I disagree. It is born of a fun concept, you know? What happens when the criminal ends up being the one calling for help? What happens when the victim ends up being worse than the criminal? What if the intruder became the one fearing for their lives? This just felt kind of sloppy. It felt kind of amateurish. Although I think it was a cool idea, I just didn't like the execution. I didn't find the characters very believable. The things that are supposed to be like edgy or scary, or even the things that are supposed to be funny, just don't land. And the grand reveal, my husband guessed it at the beginning of the movie, so it's not necessarily surprising. And there are certain parts which, in theory, like the content of what is scary in this film is very scary. Yet as I'm watching it on the screen, in these like tilted angles and this like eerie lighting, somehow it's just not speaking to my soul. It's not scary. I kept asking myself why it wasn't effectively disturbing. And from watching a lot of the films on this list, these smaller scale, maybe more independent, maybe those straight to streaming, like streaming service original films, I'm seeing something here. A lot of these might be described as like a newer generation of films, younger filmmakers perhaps. A lot of them are very tropey, but don't seem to even realize that they're being tropey. It's got this certain like naivete, I can't say that word. It's because it's a French word. Naivete to it that reminds me, it's almost like outsider art, which shout out to my friend Ashley for introducing me to the term outsider art, because now I think about it all the time. But it feels like horror movies that are made by people who haven't seen very much horror or don't have the full context of the genre. And the way I see it, although outsider art is really cool, the way I see it, perhaps to create an effective horror movie, the best practice would be to watch as many movies as possible. Read, watch, listen to reviews, read books, get context, get history. Like, you have to really dive in, I think, to be able to create an effective film, like, with full context. I could be wrong, though. Like, some outsider art is cool. But I was also thinking that perhaps having to write a movie for a streaming service is a lot like writing for TV. And something that I've noticed when I watch TV recently is that and it makes sense, it seems to just cater to the masses. Like, try to cast the broadest net as possible. Try to appeal to as many people as possible. And a lot of times, that makes these films end up feeling like they're made for stupid people or they're made for, like, children. To have a film that has, like, awkward, exponential dialogue combined with a sex scene, it all feels so weird. It's like, is this for a kid or a grown-up? It makes it fall flat to me anyway. Y'all let me know if you get what I'm saying. But it's like we're trying to appeal to a juvenile audience and an adult audience, a horror veteran and a horror virgin, which in theory is a good idea, but for me it creates this strange sort of dissonance. Films, for me, need a certain mystique, a certain grittiness, and a certain attitude that's just not always there, especially when we're dealing with a straight to video or even something that you would see in a theater because you're wanting to grab as many people as possible. Which I get it, you know, capitalism. That was a big tangent, but Invasive was just not that cool to me. Let's talk about number 9. That is The Hangman. I have been going down this little rabbit hole. I have followed an actor from Baby Oopsie. I have followed LaJohn Woods into some of the other films that he's been in. And it seems that he works a lot with some of the same people, one of them being this director named Bruce Wimple. So I checked out this movie, The Hangman, because LaJohn Woods is the lead, which is really cool. Leon takes his son on an extremely remote camping trip in the hills of West Virginia. The next morning, his son has vanished. With no cell service and a sabotaged car, Leon begins a frantic search to track down his son. This one, obviously, it's falling here in the middle. It's so-so. I love the setup, the setting here. Camping movies, Southern movies, being in a remote situation. I like all of that. Road tripping. It's fun. There's no cell service. This isn't an official campground, and the police aren't really concerned with this general area. Oh, and these hills are also filled with some hillbillies who are quite racist, and that adds a whole new level of danger to the situation. The film incorporates many different elements, which are fun. I guess I wouldn't recommend this movie unless you like kind of mid independent films. I think it's well done. I mean, I'm sure they had fun doing it. The writing of this film too seemed to have a little bit of innocence to it, like perhaps these folks have never been to the South. The hillbillies were very cartoonish, although it was funny to to watch them and kind of like talk about what we would have done differently in styling the hillbillies. This film definitely features a crazy story, a crazy plot line. It's very like Alice in Wonderland, except I called it Leon in West Virginia land. But I think it tries to incorporate too many horror elements, like too many themes into one film, and it ended up just kind of being muddy. But I did have fun watching my man LeJean do his thing. At number 8, we have Roadhouse, the remake. Now, earlier this year, I watched the original Roadhouse for, I think it was this year, 2024. I watched the original Roadhouse for the first time, and it was like partly to get ready for this remake, which Zach has been wanting to watch forever. I don't know too much about Jake Gyllenhaal, but I used to watch the shit out of Donnie Darko in high school, so this was enough to make the Donnie Darko fan in me happy. I do think this movie was made for stupider people than the original one was. We don't have so much philosophy incorporated into it, not so much mystery. It was very extra, very dramatic, but the setting of the Florida Keys was really nice. It would make a great double feature with Meth Gator, another recent first time watch, kind of the same environment. But just like the original, this one has stupid bad guys that aren't scary. How many times am I gonna say things aren't scary? That's not even a complaint I like to make. At number 7, we have The North Witch. This is another Bruce Wimple film, also featuring LaJauwn Woods. I watched a handful of these this year, but these two were released this year. 5 friends venture into the remote Canadian forest to pursue an urban legend. A hard-to-find historic cabin that may be associated with several cases of missing people. I was into this premise. It's kind of cool. It combines like this urban legend nature with, of course, being in a remote area, camping, hiking, road tripping, friends. Love that stuff. It's reminding me of this film I saw years ago called Enter Nowhere. It also reminded me of The Descent a little bit. Giving a little horror in the high desert. It's giving a little Blair Witch, okay? Reminiscent of many different films kind of swirled together. It was kind of good. I mean, that's why it's sitting up here higher on this list. I think the atmosphere was really nice. The acting was good. The music was awesome. And somehow this film did scare me. It did creep me out a little bit. You know, you never know what kind of conditions make a film hit you in that way. When I was home alone, it was dark. Like, I don't know. Something about that film kind of scared me. It was pretty immersive. I feel like the storytelling was lacking a little bit in parts though, and the film didn't just like slow down and breathe where I would have liked to see it just like be. It's professionally made. It's creatively written. Again, I'm going to use the word again, a little tropey. Overall, it was a fun watch. And I think there was a lot of love behind that project. At number 6, we have The Substance. I watched it, y'all. Part of why I am putting it so high is, I don't know, I guess from respect, I'm seeing the impact the buzz it has created, the impact it has made on the world, the way it has kind of put horror front and center, and the way that some of these OG celebrities are in this film. I've seen it just bring so many of you guys that I am friends with and so many channels that I watch loved this, and it just brought so many people together. For me, I don't know what to do with this movie. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to think. Overstuffed is one thing, but this is something else. This movie takes labor to even think about. And me personally, I like films to be a little lighter, a little more fun. I don't know. Maybe it's also because this is so freaking long. I loved the visuals, the colors, the sensual nature of all of it. The way it was shot, it was very surreal. It almost looked like AI or like some sort of crazy fantasy. It was very pretty. The world building was cool. The body horror was fun. The little nod to the 80s was fun. The overall messaging, I guess, is good or fine or whatever. But this movie was just really, really weird. And I guess because it's not set in this reality, I was having a hard time. Like, a person being born out of a person's back. What? You know what I'm saying? It looked beautiful, but it's weird, and I'm tired. And do you know what else it reminded me of? This Goosebumps episode, the one called Click, where that kid has like the remote. It's basically like a cursed remote, okay? So he calls the customer service line, and they're just very much not helpful. It was a lot like the customer service on The Substance. Basically, in my Letterboxd review, I just called this film unrateable. Unrateable. I don't know. It was a movie. At number 5 is The First Omen. I was quite surprised at how similar The First Omen is to Immaculate. However, I think that The First Omen went the direction that I wanted Immaculate to go. I think it tied in really nicely to, this is a prequel to The Omen in 1976, so I feel like it tied in really well to the beginning of the original Omen. But I will say I got so bored with the first hour and 15 minutes of the film that I ended up quitting. But the next day I did come back. I was like, I'm gonna finish this movie. And it's funny because right when I pushed play where I left off, like that's where things actually started to get interesting. So I'm glad I came back to it. It was just a long wait to get to the good part. This film did not need to be this long. It was a slow burn, and I just didn't think that there was enough character focus. I did mention in my review that Ralph Ineson is a delight. I love him. He is so cool. I saw him in The Witch, and then I've seen him in this. I don't think I've seen him in anything else, but I love him. He's kind of cute. The story weaving was well done. It was a beautiful film. Oh, the music. The music was terrifying, okay? A great effort. I didn't find like the motivations of the characters of the church necessarily that believable, but this was a good movie. Not my kind of movie. I'm not gonna be like, hey, I feel like watching The First Omen tonight. Like, I may never watch it again, but we'll see. At number 4, wow, this is pretty high. We have Horror in the High Desert 3. Firewatch. I know. There's a lot to explain. Horror in the High Desert 3 focuses on a man named Oscar on a solo adventure to find clues to the mysteries of Gary, Minerva, and that other lady from part 2. Oscar then goes missing himself. Another solo camping movie. I think I did a whole review on Horror in the High Desert part 1. I've watched part 1 and part 2 and now part 3. This is sort of a mockumentary / found footage situation. And it's funny because with the first one, I was like, I don't like mockumentaries. I was like, there was only one part that was scary, but I loved that scary part. With part 2, I was like, it did some things better, but it had like nothing scary. And then I did feel like I had to come back for part 3. And I've concluded that watching these movies is not like watching a normal movie. It's a different kind of experience. It's sort of a test on your patience. And it's up to you whether you think it's worth absorbing all of this lore and waiting for so long just for 1 to 2 to 3 scary moments in one movie. It's a lot of inconsequential information for a minimal payoff. Okay, it may not be fully inconsequential. We don't know yet, you know. The saga is continuing. But something about it is still addicting. So I would say in part 3, we have about 3 scenes that are scary. Or maybe 4, actually. Maybe 4, but they're like, you know, like you're scared, but nothing actually happens. Except for this one scene. This one scene in this movie has changed me forever. It has impacted me. I'm scared. And I was scared the next day. I'm still scared at night. When I go to the bathroom at night and go back to the bed. That first night, I swear, like, I closed my eyes and all I could see was the scary thing. If you've seen the movie, you probably know what I'm talking about. And then there's this one line that they leave you with, and that line was just like repeating in my head. I'm scared. I can't wait for the next one. This movie, like, I was laughing at myself because I was like watching it. Like, I would not look away. If I feel like I didn't hear something right, I would rewind it and listen. I was like absorbing all this inconsequential information at this point. I don't know how it's doing it. And I know these films are not for everybody because, right, nothing happens most of the time. But it's still very interesting. At number 3, I have hashtag missing couple. This film follows a web sleuth as he documents his journey to find out what happened to his missing friends, vloggers Jana and Austin, who disappeared from their newly purchased farmland in Mississippi. Shout out Mississippi! We love Southern movies here. This is a found footage movie, and when it ended, I was pretty unsatisfied. I was like, oh, okay. I thought it wasn't that good. But the next day, I realized I couldn't stop thinking about it. I felt kind of haunted and disturbed and upset by this movie. Not in the ways that you might think you're going to become upset, but the film throws other stuff at you, other surprises, and it's just like, damn. A lot of it is character-based revelations. So that is something, that's a complaint I've had about some of these other movies, is that there's really, it's not about the characters, or there's no character depth or character development. Well, in this film, it is very much about the characters. This film has great acting, a very authentic feel to it. I love this setting of being in rural Mississippi. Like, how many movies are set in Mississippi? Not that many. But it was very cool because, like, you know, it's the same isolation theme we've been having. There's no service. The cops aren't helpful. There's no neighbors. You know, all that stuff. And there's also some solo camping in the movie, which, again, I love. The tension in the film was not well cultivated. This movie didn't have scary bits. It wasn't overtly horror. It didn't deliver in the way you wanted it to, basically. But the story of the characters themselves is really impactful, and I think that makes the film really memorable. It's kind of weird, like, it keeps you thinking about it because you're like, it could have been so much better, but also it was kind of great the way it was. Again, it's not going to be the most thrilling movie, but if you give it a chance, I think, and like give yourself some time to contemplate it, I think you might get haunted by it as well. So if you've seen it, let me know, because we need to talk. At number 2, I put Oddity, because it was just a good watch. Let me tell you what it's about. Hold on. It has been a year since Dr. Timmis's wife, Danny, was slaughtered while she was home alone in their sprawling, remote home. On the anniversary of Danny's death, her twin sister Darcy arrives unexpectedly, imposing upon Dr. Timmis and his new girlfriend, Yana. Darcy, a psychic and oddities dealer, is there to find more answers about Danny's passing. This film is dreary, cinematic, moody, creepy. It has this like feeling of dread building throughout. Creative shots, good acting, a good story. The music and the ambience and everything was great. I mentioned that I found the characters to be rather flat or hollow, but I guess that's just a popular complaint that I have. Yeah, it's just like a slow, creepy, eerie watch, but I thought it was fun. It didn't overcomplicate itself, which I appreciate, and the reveals that you get are really kind of cool. So that is a good movie. I don't have really any complaints with. I thought it was a nice 2024 installment, and I think a lot of people agree. A lot of people look upon that movie favorably. And I definitely prefer something like Oddity to something like The Substance or The First Omen. Like, give me something bite-sized. Give me something relatable. Give me something that I can connect with. It's something that's not just a spectacle. You know what I'm saying? And at number 1, bitches, did you guess yet? It's freaking Frogman. This also is a 2023 movie. I think it was doing like festivals and stuff, but I've seen a lot of people call this a 2024 movie. So I'm putting it here. This is 2024 is when I watched it as well. I did a whole review video on Frogman. I am singing its praises. I am getting people to watch it anywhere I can. If you like found footage, this is a banger. If you like cryptid movies, this is for you. This film has so much to like about it. The characters, great. Their chemistry, great. We have friends having fun going on a road trip. I love when we get a little bit fun before things go woo, south, and they go so south. This movie will surprise you. It is so much fun. It has changed me. I have never rewatched found footage movies. I have rewatched this 4 times. This has got a hold on me. I cannot wait. There's going to be a Frogman 2. I can't wait. So if you want to be in the Frogman fan club, just let a hoe know. I would love some Frogman friends. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that, because it's a fantastic film and I did a whole review. So please check it out. I filmed it at the water and it's lovely. And that's really all of the 2024 movies that I watched in 2024. But not too bad, because that means I could just make one solitary video of it. So yeah, Frogman is the best and Milk and Cereal is the worst. I cannot be the only one. Anyway, hope you had fun. I have a couple other videos I'm gonna make about 2024 recapping, so hopefully I can get those out to you soon. But in the meantime, Happy New Year. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.